Hi, this is Gregory Giannakavo. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about pricing. So my thoughts on pricing, this is one of a 5-part series, and this particular segment is on how to select pricing specifically when there's no reference point. And really that's what you want to get to be. You want to be unique. You have to have some distinction in what you're selling so that you cannot be comparatively compared, exactly. So if you're selling toilet paper, that's a problem. Although in the old days it was, I think, Mr. Whipple, don't squeeze the Sherman. They made a big deal of that. You can Google that. But it's very hard in many industries to have a differentiation. So you have to create one of some type. So we're not going to talk about commodities right now. What we're going to talk about mostly is how do you create something and price it in a way that maximizes your profit. I mean, after all, when you really think about it, for a distinctive product or a product that you have that you can make some noticeable distinction, there's really no price set for that. Nobody knows what stuff's supposed to cost. Go to another country sometime and walk up and down the grocery store, and it takes you a while to zero in on what you think things should cost, and then you only do it by comparing, let's say, all the peanut butter jars. You compare and you see they're all around $4, so you start to think, well, I guess peanut butter is supposed to cost about $4. Then you see one for $1.50, and you see one for $9. Which one do you buy? Typically, you buy the one that's sort of in the middle. The one for $1.50 automatically seems too inexpensive, and the one for $9 seems like a lot for peanut butter when 4 other ones are priced at $4. But let's talk about something else that's a proven. For example, you're all familiar with how airlines price their tickets. This is a perfect example. What should a ticket cost? If I told you that you can fly from city A to city B, you're going to leave at 11, you're going to get there at 2:30. That's about what you need to know, don't you? That's the most salient part. But how do the airlines differentiate it? Well, as we know in recent years, they've started to charge for everything. So now a differentiation might be free carry-on or 2 pieces of free luggage. That's a big differentiation for some people. But what they do, getting back to the seats, is what makes first class worth $200 or $300 more? Or sometimes going to Italy, it's about $4,000 more on first class. So what makes it more expensive to be on first class on a domestic flight? Because you leave at 11, you get there at 2:30. It's the same thing, isn't it? Well, they differentiate it, don't they? They have someone cater to your needs. They ask you, would you like to hang your jacket up? They give you warm nuts. They give you free drinks before anybody else is served at all in the back. They cater to you while just after everybody's seated, even while they're seating many times, and they'll ask you, what would you like, and they take care of you. So you start to feel special. The seats are much larger. There's only one other person beside you instead of a row of 3 on each side. And there's much more ample leg room. And they'll give you free headphones. And they give you, they just really cater to you, as you probably know. So that's first class. And yet we're still leave at 11 and get there at 2:30, but they're making a differentiation, aren't they? Now what they did lately is they've now given you something called super seats or super leg room or something, where they give you a little more extra leg room on the first, say, 6 rows of economy. And then they did that by squishing the people way in the back. If you want to sit near the bathroom or the kitchen, you'll find it a little bit squishier. So you've taken an inch or 2 away from those people and given it to the ones in front. And now what do you think they charge? $15 to $59 extra to get a little bit more leg room. Now you would think for a price of a several $100 ticket, they would give you leg room. But they don't, do they? They squishle you in. And then you sit in the back, you don't get the free nuts, you don't get the free drinks. Maybe they give you a free soda, and maybe they'll give you a blanket, and maybe they'll give you headphones. The real cheapo airlines might even charge you for earphones. So there's a way of making a differentiation. I believe, and this is what I work with clients, there's a way to make a differentiation no matter what you are selling. There's a way to make it so you can get a little bit more money out of it. Now sometimes it's not just a matter of getting more money out of it, it's a matter of making more sales. I think you'd be happy with each. For example, someone who sells web design packages, for example. I worked with a guy a few years ago, and he was doing web design and video promotion and social media promotion for a major sports team. And he was packaging things something like, this isn't going to be exactly right, but I remember it's something like this, like it was something like $2,500 for the lowest package, then the next package was $5,000, then the next package was $9,000. And the sports teams were generally happy with paying $5,000 and $9,000. They have money to spend. The problem was his differentiation. There wasn't enough of differentiation between the prices, using a term that way. So 2,500, 5,000, 9,000, they're kind of squished together. They're all under 10,000. So I said, listen, you can make a multi-million-dollar company out of this. Make your 2,500 one $19.99. Then skip the one in the middle and make the next one $7,500 and make the next one $20,000. Now, this wasn't the same package that he was selling for $9, but it's very easy if you're a design company to throw in some extra videos. You could shoot more videos that day. You could throw in some extra tweets or Facebook posts. Doesn't cost you a lot. And so he made a little different package out of it. And you know what he started selling the most? The package round in the middle. He started selling the most. I think the middle package was $9,000. And then he sold a lot of the 20,000 ones because obviously that's got to be a better deal. In fact, if you're so good at posting, why don't you post more for me? I'll just pay you more. And so his company revenue doubled in 6 months. A lot having to do, I mean, he takes credit. I give him credit for his business, but a lot of it has to do with the pricing. I read a report. They did an investigation into how they price theater seats in, not movie theaters, but in the theater. And they found that you can't just price everything according to what you might think the value is. For example, if you're sitting way in the back, a not so desirable seat, you might say, well, that's only, I'm going to make up some numbers to be relative. That's a $5 seat. And the ones in front, right in front of the orchestra, right where, the most prime seats, those are $75 seats. The problem is that nobody wanted to have a $5 seat because it seemed like it wasn't worth anything. So what theater owners have done, and remember, nobody knows what things are supposed to cost anyway. They now charge $400 for the prime seats, and they have only 3 tiers of pricing throughout the whole theater. And that way, the $400, they don't need $400 to make profit, but that $400 seat anchors the value. And now you're glad to find something less expensive, and you typically go for the middle-priced ones thinking, I don't want the cheap seats. I can't afford the most expensive seats. But Linda, I got a deal for only $220. But anyway, I went another time, saw The Lion King, and sure enough, the $220 seats, 220 something seats, were very, very excellent seats. But they weren't the most expensive seats. The $400 seats were supposed to be so much better. But at some point, the row of the $400 seat ends, and the next row is a $220 seat, and that's where I got. Excellent, sat near the aisle, which I always like. I was reading this report this researcher had done on theater pricing, and this is what they found out. A, remember this about your product. You want to be distinctive that nobody else has a product exactly like yours. Did you know if you buy models of a refrigerator or a DVD player or things like that, they're pretty well about the same. I mean, many of them, in the mid-range, are about the same product that you're going to get. But they changed the model numbers for private label. So let's say that a company makes DVDs. You can go to China and you can contact them and they'll put your name on one. If you buy 10,000 units, you can have it. But they changed the model numbers in other countries as well. So if you buy a Dell laptop in the United States and you want to compare if it's less expensive to buy in Central America, to buy it here, the model numbers are not the same. Printers, the same thing. They don't use the same printer cartridges, or slightly different. They have a slightly different model number on it, so you can't compare. And they do that to make it distinctive. I mean, let's take a look at that theater. Showing The Lion King, nobody else can show The Lion King, so they're distinctive. They can charge, they get to set the market. So you might think, well, what if I want to drop my price to get more business? Well, in one way, that's called penetration pricing, where you price it low enough that everybody will buy it without an excuse. It's just something that sells quickly. The problem is you're giving up a lot of profit with that, aren't you? Because you're obviously not being very discriminating who you're selling to. And so when you do penetration pricing, sometimes that works to dive into a market, get everybody to adopt your camera or your item, your office machine, so that you can now have this is popular with shavers, right? You sell the stick and you got to buy the shaving things, the blades. And so that might be a policy, a strategy that some will do. Usually as an entrepreneur, that's not something for you to do. If you're a solopreneur, you're a small company, you really need to make that money right out of the gate. So here's what I would do. I would make sure that there's something distinctive about whatever I'm selling. I don't care if it's an office machine, if it's an info product, obviously that should be unique. If you're selling something you've imported, you've got to have something about your product that's going to make it slightly unique, something distinctive that others can't say. When you go to someone, oh, I compared your price to someone else and theirs is less expensive. That shouldn't really be a comment you're going to get back from a prospect. Now, if you're doing coaching, obviously that's unique. You're selling info products, that's unique. You've created a course, that's unique. Handcrafts, things that you create. That's why I like those kind of businesses that are automatically by default distinctive. Then you can set your own pricing. Another thing you want to have is a pricing arc. I covered that in another video. And that is you need to have various price products. Usually you need to have 3. One is a very high one to set a price anchor. So it shows the value is there. That's your $9.97 product, let's say, for info products. And then you have something that's a lower price, like a $2.97 or $4.97, something in that range. And then you have at least one thing that's low enough price that people can get to know you and buy that one first. But number 1, you gotta have something that's distinctive. So make something distinctive about your product. Number 2, have at least 3 different prices, 3 different entry points for someone to get involved with you. Usually they'll work their way up with you. They'll get your ebook, then they'll buy a low-cost product, then you'll urge them to buy another product, and then eventually you'll get the $200 a month recurring fee, or the $500 a month coaching, or the $900 course, and like that. And third, you have to keep it somewhat of a mystery. In other words, nobody should ever be able to compare with you. That's why you want to be distinctive. So when I go to an element such as Lion King, I have nothing to compare it to. Now the other thing would be is the way you can get people to think well of you. Remember, you don't just want to make the sale once. You want to make recurring revenue, and you want to make recurring sales. So somewhere in my numbers here, I want to push you to think about whatever you start a business, whatever price levels you're coming up with, you have to keep in mind that you're going to turn into a monthly recurring revenue product. That's a Facebook group, that's a coaching plan, that's something you're going to be able to charge that so much money per month, month after month after month. That's where your money is, and that's where you're stabilized, and now you can devote full attention to your customers because you're not out making new sales all the time. So that's what I want to push you towards. So those are my thoughts on pricing today. We'll have some more pricing discussions either later on today or tomorrow. There'll be other videos on this as well. So use pricing to maximize your profit. Be somewhat distinct so someone can't compare you completely. And remember, nobody knows what stuff's supposed to cost anyway.